Okay, well, this is my mama. This is
Hello.
Bianca Stafford. And your first language was?
French.
Okay, so she learned French before she learned English. And what was that like? Who did you learn it from?
Well, my father's family, my grandfather was from France, my grandmother was from French Canada, and my father was the only one born in the United States.
Compare.
Yes, and they all spoke French. So when my sister and I came along, my mother also spoke some French because her father was from Switzerland. So we spoke French first. My sister and I used to talk to each other in front of other kids in French.
Was it full on? Was it like everything was French, or was it more like, when you used to talk to me saying, Viens ici maintenant, like come here, like was it little?
No, it was full on French. My grandmother from French Canada really struggled to speak English.
Okay.
So we pretty much, French was the language around the house. And until my sister went to school at 5.
Okay, so what age would you say that you started mixing English in there?
Probably when my sister went to school, so when I was about 4, which I mean, I know, your language is limited in some ways at that age, but...
So, being that French was your first language, was it, okay, you were so young, but was it still a hard transition going to English, or because you were so young, was it easy learning English?
For me, it was easy. For my sister, she had a hard time because she started school without speaking much English. Whereas, since she was a few years ahead of me, we switched to more, my mother realized we had to switch to more English at
By the time you came around.
So by the time I came along, it was okay. But we still used to speak to each other in French in front of other people. And a lot of the kids, you have to understand that, between like the Cuban Missile Crisis and in those days there was like fear of communism and foreigners.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people thought it was really weird that we spoke another language. It was like, that's not American. The kids would say that.
It's
that's
almost
not
like,
American.
or at restaurants when like Spanish people speak in Spanish together because they're saying something that...
What do you think there's... No, I think honestly there was a odd paranoia in America at that time. So they
McCarthyism, was that the one?
Yes. Well, I mean, we were after McCarthyism, but there was still that feeling of, what are you speaking? What are you saying?
What are you saying?
I mean, a lot of people still weren't traveling internationally, so a lot of kids especially didn't even recognize what language we were speaking. So the minute they heard something different, it was like, what is that?
I could see that. Yeah, because French isn't really like Spanish nowadays. We don't have a lot of French.
There was more in diplomatic circles in those days. French was the international language still. It wasn't English yet. Now English is more the international language.
French was international even between countries?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So in school, did you take French?
Yes, I did.
Did you excel, I'm guessing?
High school.
Was it, okay, how was the difference between slang that you knew, like French, or textbook French?
I didn't know slang, but my accent, since I picked up most of my French from my French-Canadian grandmother and my father, who...
Basque?
No, well, my grandfather was Basque. But since I picked up my French through her and through my father, I had a really old accent on certain words because the French-Canadians used to speak what was considered old French, not the modern French. So my teacher would sometimes correct my accent. But otherwise, I did really well, and I used it when I was 17. I started to have the opportunity to travel, and I used it in France and could communicate.
You told me about that one story, how your friend was having you translate for the date because he was a French guy.
Well, he was Swiss, but he spoke French. He did not speak any English. He spoke French and German, and I spoke French, and I had to translate for her, and he wanted me to go out with him instead.
Okay, so transition-wise, I mean, going through school, was it that difficult changing languages? I mean, I know you picked up English pretty well, but did you ever, I mean, was it difficult picking up English and start speaking that, like speaking your feelings? I mean, I know when you call, like, say, me and T when we were little kids, you'd say, viens ici maintenant. Was there certain emotions or times where it's like you just had to use French? Or was it just English was pretty easy, you picked it up and went with it?
English was pretty easy, but even until um, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Until my early 20s, I could still dream in perfect French.
I was wondering about that if you
Yeah.
dreamt in French.
And I would have dreams all in French. Other people speaking French, I was speaking French, and I understood, and I could tell you what the dream was about. Then as I used it less and less, you know, and as my father, my aunt, and my uncle always spoke French to each other whenever they were together. I mean, some of those conversations were hilarious because my dad and my uncle were in engineering technical fields, and so it'd be something blah 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 in French. Chain link fence would pop up
Right.
at the end of the sentence, and that was kind of funny. But no, I mean, I was very lucky. My sister, as I said, she had problems with, my mother told the teacher that she did not speak that much English, that we were changing that at home, to please be patient. My sister knew to point to something and say it in French, and the teacher was supposed to repeat it to her in English, and she'd pick it up quickly. And
Did you ever think, did anyone ever, I'm not saying give you trouble, but did anyone ever think it was weird that like you guys were born in America, had American parents, but yet you spoke a different language? You ever find problems with that?
sometimes, like I said, some of the neighborhood kids, if my sister and I would very easily lapse into speaking French to each other rather than English when we were together playing. And yeah, they did. They thought it was weird, and they did not know what it was
What
that we
about-
were speaking even. They weren't even saying, "Why are you speaking French?" They'd go, "What is that? What are you speaking?
Right.
What are you saying?" And I mean, some of them didn't even believe we were speaking French.
It's
They
not like
thought we were
gibberish.
making, yeah, they were making it up, and it was like, no, I promise.
What about benefits, seeing as you were saying in that time French was more of an international language? Did you find any benefits to where you almost were ahead of some other people because you knew two languages? Did it help you in jobs and in any situations?
When I worked at Universal Studios in the tour department, I was able to assist a lot of tourists with it. So, I mean, they gave me specifically a store to work in that was right when the trams dropped off, so that I could assist them with purchase of film or needing to, find the restroom or restaurant,
Mhm.
whatever. I could give directions in French. So
So in comparison, would you think in that time it was French at that time almost like how Spanish is now, that there's that enough, it wasn't as drastic? There wasn't
no, there weren't
many
no,
French people?
there weren't that many French speakers in this
Okay,
country.
so it wasn't that big a deal. Like you didn't go around Los Angeles and every other place was French speaking.
No, it really helped though when I wanted to drink underage. I would just speak in French, and I had a pretty good accent, so they
Right?
thought I was foreign, and they believed I
Like,
was
screw it.
21.
Yeah, she's obviously,
Not that I should admit that, but
yeah.
oops.
But no, that's good. I mean, other than that, really language-wise, I mean, do you have anything to add? Like, anything that you like about it, didn't like about it?
I think that the United States should, like most European countries, my Swiss cousins all speak 5 languages. I think we should start very young, from kindergarten on, that children take at least a second language. Their minds are totally open to it. They can pick it up very quickly.
Like they say, it's harder as you get older to
Yeah,
learn.
they don't know there's anything wrong with it. And from what I understand, I mean, that's why your dad and I threw French and Portuguese at you when you were little. They claim that, some scientists claim that it opens a part of the brain if you offer 2 languages, so the child has to choose which one to speak in, to open that part of the brain. And once that part of the brain is open, like, Aunt Heidi, she was raised speaking German
She speaks Chinese,
until she
right?
went to school. Then she learned English. Then she took French with me, and then she decided to become a teacher in China, and she took Chinese. And I think it's helped her pick up even more languages having that first
I
one.
can see, I mean, because you know that program we used to take, Rosetta Stone?
Yeah.
It almost teaches you, because, it's visuals, it's pictures, and you look at it and you choose the word. That almost, I feel like, is geared towards kids, because kids are just like visual. They're like, you say something in French, you're like, un cochon, which is a cow, right?
No, it's a pig.
What's a cow?
Vache.
Vache. Okay, so you say vache and that's a cow. Well, they pick up on that because you keep saying that. It's a visual, so I feel
Some
like
of
that's
it,
why it trains.
again, I think the reason Europeans are so much better is the kids hear it. A lot of kids are oratory learners, and I think if we got